Man, this is Deion Dawkins, man, and you're listening to The Scoop on OurScoop.com. You already know.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Scoop, the weekly podcast of OurScoop.com, the authority on Temple athletics. I'm your host, OurScoop.com editor John DeCarlo. We've got a full house today. Kyle Gauss, Jason Yevis, Colin Schofield, and Ryan Mack. We've got a Temple football win to talk about. The Owls, as you know by now, beat UMass 42-10 up in Amherst to get the KC Keeler era off to a good start. Evan Simon tied a program record with 6 touchdown passes. Jay Ducker ran for 128 yards. Ben Osweke and Lou Fry came up with big plays on defense. We were up there covering the game. We'll break down the win for you, talk about this Saturday's home opener against Howard, talk a little recruiting as well. Kyle, as usual, has you covered in our recruiting roundup series, and we have several mailbag questions to get to as well. So it should be a really, really fun episode. The Scoop, as always, is brought to you by Greenspan and Greenspan Injury Lawyers. If you've been injured while on the road to the highway and the crash was someone else's fault, the insurance company will not be on your side. You need us, Temple Law grads, who will fight hard to get the compensation that you deserve. We only get paid if we win, so in Pennsylvania or New York, call us today at 215-261-7359. That's 215-261-7359. And you can find them on the web at greenspans-law.com. That's greenspans-law.com. As we have the past several weeks, we want to remind you all that now is the perfect time to join OwlScoop and get access to information on recruiting, all the football coverage now that the season is here, and much more. Join OwlScoop now for $1 on your first week and enjoy a complimentary year of The Athletic included with your membership. Some of you have told me that you've been reading our 27-10 series about the 10-year anniversary of Temple's 27-10 win over Penn State. The stories are done, but I'm going to be posting within the next few days a lot of the audio from the interviews I did, including one with Wayne Harden. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. And just all the stories that we break throughout the season. So great time to sign up and subscribe. Guys, how are we doing?
Thriving.
Doing great, John.
Today was my son's first day of kindergarten, so it was first day him getting on the bus. So it was an emotional day in the Gallus house.
Oh,
but we are here.
Is he full kindergarten, full day kindergarten?
Oh yeah, full day,
wow.
5 days a week out my door.
How's his hair looking? He got a haircut and you said it was a good haircut, but you just thought it made him look older.
Did I say that?
You did. You said something like Jordan got it like cut tight on the sides.
He did, and he got it again. He got it like a little too tight like 6 weeks ago, and then he got it tight again like this last week. But he looks good. Put a little product in and give him some texture. He looks good. Looks like a little dude. He's good.
Traveled up to UMass, saw the Great Connecticut River.
It was a long weekend.
Yeah.
It was
literally a long weekend. It was Labor Day weekend.
Well, yeah, literally and physically. Not a lot of sleep for the last couple of days, but a great trip up at UMass. Saw a good Temple football win.
Ryan, your brother got engaged. Are we allowed to break that news on the Scoop?
Oh yeah. Got engaged on Sunday. That was really cool. So I went from UMass, the Springfield train station took me all the way down there to go celebrate with him and like his fiance and like the families and stuff. So that was really fun. Spent the day in Brooklyn. I was really, really tired at 4:45 in the morning, and it was a long day, but it was nice.
Ryan left our hotel room just ever so gently, just left his room key there, and then just hopped in his Uber to go down there.
Do you return room keys?
I do. I feel bad if I don't.
Do you check out?
No, I just checking out, return the room keys, and then you just know you're gonna get.
I never check out. I just leave.
So you're just theoretically in some ways just staying at numerous hotels around the world.
They know that you're leaving.
I know.
The only benefit to you checking out is that they know their housekeeping can go up there and start the process. But like you're charging me an arm and leg or whatever. I have that room until 11. It's my room till 11. You don't get that hour back.
Jay, how was your weekend? Did you do anything fun?
It was low key. It was cool. I didn't do anything fun. I just I got a new phone yesterday, but not really anything fun.
Kyle, what did you do with your time other than tweet out impressive stats?
I was back on my bullshit with the stats. And then Sunday I climbed a tree, as I said beforehand. went to our friends Casey and Sean's house, and they said no one ever climbed this tree. And I said I climbed the crap out of this tree, and I climbed that tree.
Hey,
And then
how high up were you on this tree?
I was probably like not that far. I just got up there. I climbed like 20, 25 feet, but it was more just like
Oh, that's
maybe
pretty
not
good.
even 15, maybe. It was more just like to get up it. My buddy Sean was like, I always have to use a ladder. I was like, I have to use a ladder to get up this. I can just climb this tree. And sure enough, I found the way to hoist myself up and get up there. And natural athleticism came in, and I put myself in the tree.
Wait,
Is
did
there
you?
video evidence of this? Because
There's a photo of me in the tree, I believe. I don't think there's a video.
if I don't see anything, it didn't happen.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, you saw the scars on my arm.
That don't mean anything. You could have got attacked by a raccoon. I don't know.
That would be more concerning, I'd say, if it was attacked by a raccoon. But look,
Okay.
I'm in a tree. Look at me in a tree.
So this was just like, hey, I'll bet you can't climb up that tree, and
I
you're
don't
like,
even think anybody bet me. I think I bet myself,
you'd say you bet on yourself.
bet against myself.
Now that we've talked about
They
Kyle's,
segue out of that.
well, I was about to say, now that we have talked so enthusiastically about Kyle's tree climbing talents, there is no natural segue. So we're just going to talk about this 42
Oh,
to
I
10.
I had a couple right there, right,
Well,
ready to
let's
go.
go
You
with
got
it.
to
Let's
you
go
got
with
to
it.
you got to. All right. While we wait now, dang,
Mm,
pressure's on. Okay.
mm.
Now that we talked about Kyle climbing up trees, let's jump over to a different branch and talk Temple football and them
Ooh.
I like that.
and them
Moved.
and their let's recap their 42 to 10 win over
That's,
UMass
that's
this
pretty
past
good.
weekend.
That's
Could
pretty
have done
good.
that. You could have done foliage in New England.
Yeah,
There was things there. You just took none of the routes.
that was good. That was pretty good. Nonetheless, here we are. The Casey Keeler era off to a good start. Temple routs UMass 42 to 10 up in Amherst. A lot of things to take out of this game. Again, we've had a lot of coverage of the game since Saturday. Our game story, Don Otto's photo gallery, the snap counts from the game, coverage of yesterday's weekly Monday press conference. Casey Keeler spoke. Giakoby Hills spoke. Giakoby Hills started in place of Kevin Terry, and Cameron Stewart spoke as well on Monday. So obviously you had that turning point in the game was that big fourth down stop by Lewis Fry at the safety position. Ben Osweke's interception, another big turning point. Well, not necessarily a turning point, I guess a preservation point in the game. You know, he had encountered, well, really the defense on those first couple of drives did not look good. Ben Osweke had an early pass interference penalty, and then later in the game comes up with a big interception in the back of the end zone. They were leading by 18 points at that point. If UMass goes in and scores, they're back within 11, and then, you know, do some of the doubts creep in, do some of the old habits creep in. That never happened. Giakoby Hills, as I said, in his first college game, started at left tackle, played well at left tackle. And then, of course, Evan Simon, big story of the day, 19 of 25 passing, 248 yards, tied a program record with 6 touchdown passes. He tied Adam DeMichael, and then Kyle reminded me later on that Devin Scott also did it in 1999. So 6 touchdown passes for Evan Simon. He was the American Conference's Offensive Player of the Week. Just in case you're wondering, that's the first time a Temple player has won that award since 2018 when Rockwell Armstead did it. Ed Sadie had that monster game against USF, but just got, that was a few years ago, got honorable mention, didn't get Conference Offensive Player of the Week. Both quarterbacks did play. Giovanni McCoy played, but Evan Simon started, played 50 of Temple's 69 snaps in the game. The starting job, I think we can safely say, is very firmly his for another week. Jay Ducker, as good as advertised, 19 carries, 128 yards. After that Lou Fry stop on fourth down near the goal line, very next play, Jay Ducker pops off a 55-yard run that gave them plenty of breathing room. Very good day for him. Big game for Peter Clark, 4 catches, 85 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Shows you that he can really go up and get the ball. He's showed again that is he in that spot where he's the inline blocking tight end? Yes, but really played well. That first touchdown pass from Evan Simon, almost overthrown. Peter Clark brings it in, brings in the other one that was thrown up there. Ryder Cush, first 3 catches of his career, 2 of them went for touchdowns. So a lot to chew on from this game. We'll talk a little bit about the game here, and then we have so many mailbag questions to get to that pertain to this. But general thoughts on the game, guys. Did you? We all predicted wins, so this isn't super surprising. But did you expect a 42 to 10 win?
No, I think I projected 24-21, and I've been kind of like going back and forth over the last couple of days and like how to kind of measure this win because like I think you can make the argument that UMass is one of, if not the worst team in FBS.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, like I've also seen 2 years ago, Temple have to rally to beat Akron at home, and when Akron was probably the worst team in
Yeah.
college football. So like I think a 32-point win, no matter how you get it, especially at this point in like a rebuild, is noteworthy. And like it coming in the first game of the year is also usually a positive sign. In the history of Temple being an FBS program, they've had a 32-point win in the first game of the year 6 times, including this time. And 4 of the other 5 years, they ended up being a winning team. The fifth year they went 1-10, so that was the high water mark, and then everything just fell out. So there's different sides, but for the most part, I think it's like you'd be nitpicking to find something to complain about. I do think that the opening quarter, their tackling was concerning.
Yeah.
I think they made a lot of adjustments defensively, which is positive. I think Brian Smith did a good job of getting Cameron Stewart in situations where he could be disruptive, and then all of a sudden you saw them just kind of wear down the UMass offense to the point that all of a sudden they were getting pressured. Khalil Poteet gets a sack, Cameron Stewart gets a sack. They're in there and they're kind of consistently in the backfield. So I would say overtly positive things is what I've settled on for this 42-10 win.
Yeah, and they moved Cam around a little bit, and that one
Yeah.
on Khalil Poteet's sack, Cam Stewart provides.
He might as well have gotten a sack on that one.
Yeah, he provides the pressure, and Rose goes right into it, and Khalil Poteet's boom right there. Khalil Poteet, great interview after the game, by the way.
Yeah.
Very enjoyable to talk to.
If you include that kind of like outside linebacker edge rush position of like Cam Stewart and Tyrese Whittaker and stuff like that, they rotated in 11 guys.
Mhm.
Like before the game was a blowout. Like they can like actually played 11 dudes out on the defensive line or in that rush position. So that's kind of like they've been talking all camp about how deep that position group is. It might not just be smoke. They really did play a lot of dudes on that team.
Caton Supernaut started at middle linebacker instead of Eric Stewart, involved in that turnover that really started to turn the game around on that fumble that I think a lot of people, including us up in the press box, thought was going to be reviewed. And then they kept going. And that was another big turning point.
I mean, it was also just like clearly a fumble.
At first, I think we got distracted looking at like everybody on the UMass sideline is saying he was down. And then you could go back up in the press box or watching on ESPN Plus where they're streaming it. And then you could see, okay, he was out. So
the last person to know it was a fumble might have been Caden Supernat. Like he just was not reacted to like what's going on. Thankfully, Avery Powell was right there to scoop it up and return it.
Colin, you made the trip up. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think Kyle said you'd really be nitpicking to try to find any negatives. Like I predicted the 24-14 win. I was not expecting Evan Simon to go out and throw 6 touchdowns and have one of the best games in Temple football history. I thought he would start. And I was curious to see how they would loop in Giovanni McCoy and Evan Simon. And the main question I think Brian brought up last week was what happens if Evan Simon has 4 or 5 really good drives. And I mean, he did. And then you saw him bringing like Giovanni McCoy come in with 4 minutes before half and then also started coming out of the second half. And I mean, he didn't look as good as Evan Simon. Like it was hard to look as good as Evan Simon, but I found it interesting the points he decided to bring Giovanni in. Still looping Giovanni in despite Evan Simon playing really well. And then obviously Giovanni got in garbage time. That's kind of the main takeaway for me was still working in both quarterbacks despite Evan Simon's performance. I thought Jay Ducker looked really good as advertised, as you said, John. I was really impressed with JoJo Bermudez. I thought he really made himself available, had a career high in catches and yards, I think. And then the defense missed some tackles early on, but then, I mean, Kyle kind of hit on how well the defense played in the second half. So encouraging things all across the board for me.
Jay, you couldn't be with us last week. Should also say, Jay, this is going to be his last episode with us. Jay's got a busy schedule. He's going to be interning at the Inquirer, like Colin and Ryan as well. And he's also our assistant general manager at WHIP. So he's going to star with us again and on around this date. But Jay, I think if you were able to be with us on last week's pod, I think you probably would have predicted a win. But what'd you take away from this game? Do you expect them to play that well and respond? I know adversity is a cliche term, but again, UMass drove on them early. Did you expect an effort like this from Temple?
I didn't. I don't think anyone did, and I think that's fair to say. But I do think, and Kyle said this a couple weeks ago. I think the biggest thing was it's hard to get an indication of the offensive line and the defensive line and how well they'll
Mhm.
play,
Yeah.
especially in a preseason setting. And so that was what I was looking for the most. Like I needed to see that, and of course the tackling. But I think Casey Keeler said it best. Like on the ESPN broadcast at halftime, we're just like we expected that all preseason. Like that's something we adjust to. And they did the second half. But I do think the offensive line and defensive line is what I was most intrigued with, and to see it at both held up, if not, excelled. Which once again you can say the competition. But I do think the offensive line and the defensive line both stood out to me as like, all right, like this is a lot better than what we've seen in previous years.
To that point, the offensive line, I mean, Evan Simon threw from a clean pocket on 93% of his dropbacks. Last year it was 53%. So like again, consider the opponent, but you're plus 40% in clean pocket percentage. Like it's not easy to play Division One football or Division One quarterback, but it's easier to do it when you have a clean pocket and you can go through your reads.
Let's talk about that and staying on that subject. So as I mentioned a little while back at the start of the pod, Monday's weekly press conference, the players that were made available were Cameron Stewart and Giakoby Hills. So talk about Giakoby Hills, recruited by the previous staff, but he is in at left tackle, started at left tackle after Kevin Terry got hurt in that August 9th scrimmage with the MCL injury. So Giakoby Hills played 62 snaps at left tackle. So all the starters played 62 snaps before they brought the reserves in and played pretty well. I mean, there was one just random play. I think there was an incompletion that Evan Simon threw to Colin Chase in the end zone. Several plays or handful of plays where I just looked at Giakoby Hills and held up in his blocking, his technique. He just looked pretty solid. I'm sure the coaches can look at the film and say, okay, you got to improve this or improve that. But sounds cliche, but you didn't hear his name called. Kyle just told you about the percentage there and a percentage of snaps where Evan Simon threw from a clean pocket. But so he spoke on Monday. Kevin Terry did practice Monday. Again, he's continuing to come back from that MCL injury. He was with the second team unit. So when Casey Keeler was talking about yesterday, he said, and the quote here, as Kevin gets healthy, we can kind of figure out which one can bump back and forth and give us 3 tackles. If we can play 3 tackles, it's amazing in the fourth quarter, taking off 10 or 15 snaps during the game, how much fresher they are. So if you can play 7 or 8 offensive linemen, you're blessed. And I think we have a chance that we might be able to play with some extra tackles this weekend. So yeah, so they play Howard this weekend. We'll talk about them in a little bit, but we'll play a clip here for you. This is Colin asking a couple of questions to Giakoby Hills. So Colin, you want to kind of preview this, a little bit of what you asked him during Monday's press conference?
Yeah, I just kind of asked him kind of like what was like playing with the offensive line group that was so together last year. I mean, it was Jackson Pruitt, Eric King, Grayson Maines, and Diego Barajas for a lot of last year. And what was like kind of stepping into like as a kind of the new guy there, the redshirt freshman that didn't play at all. Kind of like what was like playing with them and how they kind of helped him during the game and are still helping him now get adjusted to, playing those first team snaps for the first time.
This clip of Monday's interview, this is Colin talking to Temple's starting left tackle, Giakoby Hills, the redshirt freshman, again, playing in his first college football game on Saturday and his first start, played pretty well. So we'll play part of that interview from yesterday, and then we'll jump back in here, talk a little bit about Cam Stewart, and then we'll start talking about Saturday's opponent, the Howard Bison.
Giakoby, Casey's talked about you as a guy from spring ball who improved a lot, and then in the fall also just continued to improve. Where do you feel like you've made those improvements? Kind of how has that happened for you from the spring to now, and now you're starting at left tackle?
Just staying locked into the plays, doing my job, not trying to do too much stuff at once, and staying focused really brings you a long way in football. We have the talent, but if you can't stay mentally focused, then it won't get you anywhere. But I think I've stayed focused since spring ball, and I continue to keep growing, and I plan to do so.
And those guys on the line with you have all played a lot last year. They're all more veteran guys. How have they kind of helped bring you along with the starters as well? How have they helped you, so far in the fall and then getting ready for, starting at left tackle?
We have good communication up front. That's something we've been harping on since spring ball. And staying focused to the plays, knowing where we're going, knowing where everyone else is going, and we all play together because we're all in this together as an offense.
So Cameron Stewart, we talked about him a little bit earlier. He also spoke on Monday. He had one of Temple's 2 sacks Saturday. As Kyle said, he might as well have gotten a half sack on the other one. I think the guys, again, it's one game. They looked fresh. They rotated a lot of players in. Again, you hear people talk about it, you hear players talk about it. He said, hey, if we, the sky's the limit, if we just focus on what we can do. But week one, they looked like a much better coach team. They did not panic when they went down early. They didn't panic when they had missed tackles. And week one, Cam Stewart looked like a guy who played in the Big 33 game coming out of high school, looked like a guy who was a Big 10 recruit and originally ended up at Rutgers. So a good game from him, a good game from Khalil Poteet, who had been coming off an injury. A good game from the defensive line, as Jay said. Real interesting. I think we talked about that, as Jay pointed out, like how good are the lines going to be when you're covering preseason camp? Oh, this line looks good. That line looks good. Casey Keeler had said, we didn't think that either line of scrimmage will be great coming off of 4-3-9 seasons, but for 1 week, they look pretty good. So let's look at Saturday's opponent, Howard. Howard, an FCS program, they're coming off a 10-9 win Saturday over Florida A&M in the Orange Blossom Classic down in Florida. Matt Conard, their kicker, hit a 43-yard field goal with no time left on the clock to win the game. So that was his career-long kick. So if you're insanely curious about the special teams unit for the Howard Bison, you know that their kicker, Matt Conard, can at least hit a 43-yarder. Otherwise, 272 yards of total offense for Howard. They held Florida A&M to 3 field goals, just 195 yards of total offense. Former Temple quarterback Henry Burris has his work cut out for him down there as Florida A&M's offensive coordinator. Howard does have a quarterback in Florida Atlantic transfer, Tyreek Starks, who's probably a little better than what the numbers indicated from them this past weekend in producing just 10 points. He was 17 of 28 passing for 145 yards, a touchdown and a pick on Saturday. In last year's season finale, when he was with Florida Atlantic against a 3-9 Tulsa team, granted Tulsa wasn't great last year, neither was FAU. He threw 5 touchdown passes in that game. So he has shown flashes of being able to play in this league. So he's not a guy that, if you don't know anything about the Howard football team, which I'm guessing you may not, if you're thinking, oh, it's an FCS opponent, they're going to be easy. This guy has shown some ability. And Casey Keeler, one of the things he talked about on Monday, he has respect for the Howard program. He told the story about how the MVP of his national championship team at Sam Houston State in 2020 was Jaquez Ezzard, a wide receiver transfer from Howard. Defensively, again, this is a team that played well on Saturday. Caleb Gallup, one of their defensive backs, and then 2 of their defensive linemen, Noah Wiles and CJ Wesley, they all had sacks for Howard on Saturday. Noah Miles is really one of the best defensive linemen in the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference. He had 11 and a half tackles for loss last season and 8 sacks. And then Wesley's a defensive lineman who redshirted last season. He's a St. Peter's prep grad. So let's talk about this game. I have not looked at any betting lines yet, but we can, I guess, reasonably assume that Temple's going to be favored. What are we expecting for Saturday?
I don't even think there are betting lines for this game yet. I think it's one of those FCS games where it's just like you might eventually find one book that'll offer it. But yeah, I think this is look, I mean, every time Temple's like played like this level of like FCS team, even some like mediocre to bad Temple teams just beat up on teams like this. Like I remember like the 2014 team, they beat Delaware State 59-0, and it really wasn't even that close. I think Starks has some ability. Like you said, he played against Tulsa. I don't think he has the skilled position players to really make too much of a dent here. I think this is a situation where you'll see Evan Simon for a quarter and a half. You'll see Giovanni McCoy for a quarter and a half. You'll probably end the game seeing Patrick Keller play quarterback for Temple after Tyler Douglas. I think this is a game that is going to tell you, quite honestly, nothing about Temple or nothing about Howard. Like, this is just a huge difference in resources and talent level, I would say.
We want to jump into some predictions here. Jay, you want to lead us off?
I'm in the same boat with Kyle. I think especially the momentum that Temple has like off a week 1 win like that, where like, albeit once again it's UMass, but the confidence in the way they played as a team, I think it's difficult to beat coming into a week 2, but especially against the Howard team as well. If I could give an exact prediction, I do think it looks something similar to how it was against UMass. I'll say 45-7.
45-7 route from Jay. Colin, what do you think for Saturday?
I mean, Kyle and Jay both kind of hit on the head. Like, this is not a prove it game for either side. Anyway, I think Temple is going to win pretty comfortably. I'll say 52-3.
I'm going right in the same boat. I'm calling it a gentleman's shutout. It's 49-3. Essentially, it's a shutout, but Howard maybe gets a field goal in the third or fourth quarter to make it look better on the box score. Gentleman's shutout, 49-3.
Gentleman's shutout. Interesting.
Tyler Douglas throws a touchdown pass.
Oh, wow.
No. Tyler Douglas runs.
I was about to say.
Yeah, Tyler Douglas runs in a tutty.
For whatever reason, I'm thinking that they're actually going to score a few fewer points on Saturday. I think it's going to be a 38-3 win or maybe a 38-10 win. We'll go 38-3.
I'll say if the UMass game's any indication, like Casey Keeler is not opposed to just salting drives, just like kill the clock, drive this out. I mean, UMass had 3 drives the entire second half.
Yeah.
Hey, you got up, you got your lead, get out of this game healthy, just run the clock. Wouldn't surprise me if that happens against Howard as well.
Yeah, I think I'll go 38-3. So we're all predicting wins on Saturday. We'll have coverage for you from the game. And of course, we're all predicting Temple to get off to a 2-0 start before the schedule gets tough. Want to point out to you again, if you're an owlscoop.com subscriber, one of the benefits you get is our recruiting roundup coverage. So if you're wondering how recruits like Mooresville High School quarterback Brady Norman did, how Pennsauken High School running back RJ Blunt did, and Monsignor Bonner two-way star Dylan Abram did this past weekend, Kyle's got you covered there in our recruiting roundup series. So again, more content that you get access to as a subscriber. Kyle talked to a couple of players this week as well. So got some quotes.
Look at me. Look at my extrovert self.
Before we hop into On Around the State with Jason, a couple of basketball tidbits to pass along. We broke the story earlier today that Temple is going to open its season at home against Delaware State in November. So that story's up on the front page right now. And then some exciting news for Khalif Wyatt, sad news for the Temple fan base. He is going to be leaving the Temple staff for a coaching position for the Nets G League team. So I'm really happy for Khalif. He's been, in his time on Adam's staff, a lot of the guys have raved about how much they've gotten from him. Guys like Matteo Piccarelli, Aiden Tobias, and, again, if you're listening to this podcast, chances are you know a lot about Khalif Wyatt. And I can respect the fact that he wanted to get involved in coaching, started off at Westchester, worked his way up to Temple, and now he's getting into the NBA sphere. So super happy for Khalif, and I think he's going to do well in the coaching business.
I would agree. I mean, Khalif's one of the Mount Rushmore of Temple personalities, I'd say, in the last 20, 25 years. He benefited a lot from the fact the NCAA allowed these off-bench roles to get their hands dirty while practicing with that rule change. So I would imagine Adam Fisher is going to probably pursue somebody in that similar vein, where a guy that only recently stopped playing professional basketball, whatever it might be, because I think they find that very beneficial, what Khalif Wyatt was able to provide of actually, practicing, helping these guys practice.
I think we have one basketball question in the mailbag. So, but sprinkling in a little hoops news for you there. Jay, On Around the State, what do you have cooked up in the cauldron for
On
us?
this date, September 2nd, 2025, Jay walked away.
So dramatic.
He hung it up. He hung his cleats up.
Okay, I'm glad you said that, Kyle, because if not, John would make it seem like I'm dying. That was the next that was gonna be the next step.
He always says he's not with us, no longer with us.
Jay's very much with us. Jay's gonna get sick of seeing me. I mean, we work together very closely at Temple, and he's doing a great job at WHIP. So yes, he's very much with us. But last episode of the Scoop, you'll see him in the Temple sports coverage sphere. But yeah, he's very much with us, very much alive.
Real quick, and this might be something, sorry to interrupt you. I'm reading my email, and Chuck Sullivan sent out the weekly football media releases. Did we know the American was going to start doing injury reports for American games?
No.
I didn't know that. The American will issue player availability reports in advance of all conference games in the 2025 season, beginning with Saturday's game between UAB and Navy. So they must be published to the American website and on social media no later than 2 hours prior to kickoff for conference games.
Huh.
Big Ten started doing that a couple of years ago. You started seeing a lot of the Power Four school conferences do that.
Okay.
And now the American's going to be there.
Tim Pernetti, another notch in the belt, saying you guys got to grow up.
Yeah.
You're all grown up. All right, Jake, go ahead.
Welcome to On Around This Date. I'm your host and one and only host, Jason Nieves. I'm choosing what we start with today, and I'm choosing events. On September 2nd, 1901, this
Hmm.
president gave his speech saying, "Speak softly and carry a big stick. You will go far."
Teddy Roosevelt.
Teddy Roosevelt.
Just
Teddy Roosevelt got shot during the middle of a speech, I believe.
Yeah,
He
Just kept
did?
going. Yeah.
he kept going. It's a G.
Wow. I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, Teddy Roosevelt was wild.
Where did he get shot to be able to just keep going?
1901, while attending the Pan American Exposition.
I want to say it was the chest or something like that, where he had like his notes.
Wow.
Yeah, that sounds right. And he just kept doing the speech. I think he got shot a couple times, actually.
A couple times is crazy.
Is there footage of the speech where like old
It was
ladies, like,
1901.
1901,
but like
John.
not footage,
They
like
had-
a photo, like
They had they hadn't
Can you
invented
imagine?
talkies yet.
I'm just astonished by this. Like you get shot in the chest and you're like, what do you just clear your throat anyway?
Yeah, as an experienced hunter, Roosevelt correctly concluded that since he was not coughing blood, the bullet had not reached his lung. He declined to go to the hospital, instead delivered a 90-minute speech with blood seeping into his shirt.
No.
Teddy Roosevelt was an ox.
Are there any of us here who would continue to deliver a speech if we were shot in the chest?
Go
My
ahead.
dedication to the scoop runs so deep that I think I continue to do one around the state. If it meant that I got to yell at Kyle. So
I would miss an episode of The Scoop for a rumbling tummy. Like if I saw like a slight upset stomach, I'd be like, that's enough for me to not be there.
Colin, could you continue to deliver a speech if you were shot in the chest?
I don't think I'm that level of tough to be able to deliver a speech with a bullet in my chest. I'm not gonna lie. I wish I was that tough. I wish I was that badass, but I just don't think I'm at that level. Maybe not, maybe in the future, but not yet.
Yeah, I would. There's no way. I'd be very concerned. I can't think of a single speech I'd be giving where I was like, this is too important. I have to keep going.
Do you think he was doing like the public speaking like cliches of like, oh, I'm envisioning everybody in the crowd naked or like in their underwear or whatever, like get over the anxiety, and they just boom, get shot in the chest?
I say the only way to find out is we get Jay back for one more week, get a Ouija board, let's get some spirits in here, and let's ask him.
Let's talk to the ghost of Teddy. Teddy, what'd you really think about your cousin marrying your other cousin?
It's a pod that could do some numbers. You know, we'll see. Anyway, Jay, go ahead. I'm sorry, we got way off track. I mean, sort of got off track, not really.
Yeah, really. He brought up Teddy Roosevelt.
He did, yeah. But we got way off. I got a little off track, but nonetheless, go ahead.
all right, on September 4th, 2006, we're
right.
going 105 years in the future. This TV personality was killed by a venomous bull stingray.
Robert, or not Robert.
Steve.
Steve Irvin. His son's name is Robert.
We'll get him on the Ouija board too.
Jay,
Do a Steve Irwin impersonation right now.
No.
Yeah, it feels. I don't know. It doesn't feel right.
Jay,
I'm just gonna.
anybody who's alive that you want to talk about?
Yeah, actually, I got you. On September 4th, 2002, this person won the first ever season of American Idol.
Kelly Clarkson.
Kelly Clarkson.
I saw Kelly Clarkson live at the Twitter Center in like 2005, 2006. She's a hell of a singer. She's a great performer. She does her karaoke things now. She finds her way on my algorithm relatively often. She's a Cowboys fan though, unfortunately.
Her Sunday night football thing every Sunday, it gets you through.
Isn't that Carrie Underwood?
I think it's Carrie
Is it
Underwood.
not Kelly Clarkson?
No, it's Carrie Underwood.
No.
Couldn't tell me the difference.
Those
thought
are
they were
drastically different people.
Yeah.
I couldn't differentiate.
I actually was talking. I'm going to bring this up. If you want to cut this, I don't care.
Jay, well, as one of your final acts on the scoop, I will meet with you separately to determine if we keep that in the pod or cut it.
If you do cut it, I want you to keep the references that you cut something I said. I want it to be known that I am being censored and I am the bad boy of the scoop.
All right, we're going to go over 2 birthdays. And speaking of bad boys, I think you could say this actor was one of the bad boys of the 90s. Not like literally, I'll get to it. But this actor was born on September 2nd, 1964 in Beirut, Lebanon, and is known for his breakout role in an action film alongside Sandra Bullock.
Keanu
Keanu Reeves.
was born in Lebanon?
Yes.
Interesting.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Neither did I.
Hey, if I'm not teaching you, what are we doing here? All right. This singer was born on September 4th, 1981 in Houston, Texas, and has the most Grammys of any artist with 32 wins.
Beyonce.
Beyonce.
Beyonce's 44. That makes sense. She was around before I was around.
And that's how it makes sense.
Yeah, that's how age works.
All right. The final one. This
All right.
comedian
I like that.
was
Okay. All right.
All right.
because I don't know what you want me to say sometimes. It's just
No,
like
it's good.
I gotta.
Entertaining. It's just a little makes me laugh. All right.
Well, all right. This comedian was born on September 2nd, 1971 in Cincinnati, Ohio. And he's been in movies like Friday After Next and Norbit.
54.
I knew this one would hit you guys.
It's not Chappelle. We talked about Chappelle. You just brought up Chappelle a couple weeks ago. Cincinnati. It's not. That's too young for Eddie Murphy. And Eddie's from North Jersey anyway, right? Or he lives in Cincinnati, Ohio. Friday After Next. So that's got to be.
I don't know.
You give us another clue.
Honestly, like he did a lot of stand-up stuff. Like so it's hard to like say like directly like, oh, this is a famous movie you know him in. Those are probably the most two famous.
Who was the guy that wasn't Chris Tucker and wasn't Ice Cube in Friday? The guy that kept getting like beat up by Devo.
I will say he does have a crazy perm. And this is
Cat
like,
Williams.
Oh, Cat Williams.
Cat Williams is only 10 years older than Beyonce. Cat Williams is 5 years older than John.
What else can we say about Cat Williams?
Good for you avoiding some controversy talking about how to describe Cat Williams. You could have said some things in the past year.
Yeah.
Trust me, I listen, I learned my lesson from the Michael Vick stuff. That was a very awkward, like, because I was listening back to that and I was like, damn, like I was like, I set myself up for that. And I
literally said moving away from controversial figures.
Moving away from controversial figures.
All right, that's one around this day.
Beautiful job, babe. Beautiful job. As he does each week, before we hop into the mailbag here, we get a weekly tip from our friend Mike Greenspan of Greenspan and Greenspan Injury Lawyers. He wants to keep you safe on the roadways and in life, but he also wants to make sure that you stay safe so that you don't need his services. So here is Mike Greenspan's weekly tip, and then we will hop into the mailbag.
Hey, Temple fans, don't let the excitement over the big win over UMass distract you from driving because school is back in session, and that means school zone penalties are in effect. You drive speeding through a school zone, you are going to get ticketed and you're going to pay lots of money. Let's be safe. Let's look out for our kids out there, and go Owls.
All right, first question here in the mailbag. We've got several to get to from the screen name Temple fan Al from our Al Scoop message boards. Question there: who will replace Coastal Carolina on the schedule in 2026? So Coastal Carolina released their 2026 schedule, or something got out there. So Temple was scheduled to play them. I've been told by a couple of sources that the football program does not know yet. They don't have anything firm lined up, but I would imagine that's where they try to bring Delaware into the mix. Kyle may or may not have been censored again. Next question here from the screen name Mike TB 31. Interesting question here. Is the defense going to be the biggest area of concern this season? So, I mean, if in real time, if you wanted a super immediate first quarter take, yeah, the early answer is sure, because the tackling was sloppy. Javier Morton missed a tackle. There was the Benesweke pass interference. They looked like a team that didn't tackle a ton in preseason camp, but then they were kind of the unsung heroes of the day. There was the fumble recovery that turned the game around. There was Lou Fry's stop. There was Benesweke's interception. I think it's too early to say that the defense is going to be the biggest area of concern. We're looking at a 42-10 win. It came against UMass. They should beat Howard, and then you've got Oklahoma. You've got Georgia Tech. It's going to look like a different season after that. I think it's too soon to say they're the biggest area of concern. I think you could maybe look very specifically at the secondary. I think we talked about that last week. Kyle pointed out that they're one one or two injuries or even a guy being banged up here and there for a week you go from, some really experienced guys to some not so experienced guys, even if they're talented, like a Jet White or like an Earl Culp. So I think it's too soon to say that they're going to be the biggest area of concern, but I get where you're coming from based on how they tackled earlier. But I think if I had to say that the defense, if you said, hey, John, the defense is going to be an area of concern this year, why? I would say the secondary. But I want to hear what you guys think about this.
Yeah, I think this falls in like the nitpicking thing. What's been like the slight against Temple's defense the last couple of years is that they haven't been able to force big plays and they haven't been able to force turnovers. So like I don't think you can use the fact that they had like two turnovers to stop drives like against them, because that's part of defense and they made big plays when they needed to. They still had a lot of plays, a lot of drives where they just forced UMass off the field like with ease. Like especially during that stretch where they kind of separated in the second quarter, like UMass did 3 plays for three plays for -22, 4 for 18 to wrap up like the half. Like when they needed to, I think they got better. If you took away the missed tackles, which is a big if on the first two drives, that probably ends up being an even more lopsided score. I'm not all of a sudden, I feel like 10 days ago, we would have said like we're more confident about the defense than the offense. And I'm not all of a sudden willing to be like one game completely flip that on its head. I think it's still room to improve, but I'm not super concerned at this point.
Jay, what do you think? Is the defense going to be the biggest area of concern this season? Again, we're looking at exactly 1 week of film and of a body of work here.
Yeah, I think I just need to see more data against a team that, no disrespect against Howard, but a team that I think we can really like see what the limit of this defense is. Like I think like it was, especially like from a team with as many transfers and like, all the chaos that surrounded this offseason and just, a new head coach coming in and you're bringing in new offensive and defensive coordinators. Like it's hard to make a clear determination of like, especially after week one, against a team like UMass to definitively state like, all right, like the defense is going to be the biggest area or the offense is going to be the biggest area of concern where we need to watch out for. So I like it's kind of a cop-out answer to say we need to see more data because that's obvious. But I do think like if you're going to make a direct distinction of saying like, all right, this part of the team is going to be an area of concern or a specific position group is going to be a part of a concern. I think you just need to see more.
Next question comes from the screen name Lone Star 2000, another one of our longtime subscribers. After this first game, would you change your outlook for wins and losses for the season? So I think we've all been kind of saying like maybe they're a 5-7 team, maybe they can even up, and if a couple things go their way, they can be a 6-6 team. What do you think of this one, Jay? Again, you've already said, rightly so, it's one game, but did you see anything on a granular level where you'd say, okay, one game, but I could maybe see them like, does what you saw Saturday maybe tip you up like a win in the win column for them if you were to predict the rest of the season?
If there's one specific area I could say like I could continue to see being effective, I think it's Tyler Walker's offense. I think like the way he's able to like, and I'll like reference our friend Ramir Vaughn, and like he loves when teams like motion and use pre-snap movement. And I can just like imagine him in my head as I'm watching his offense, like that's how you play football. Like, that's what I'm looking for. And I think seeing all the movement, seeing how he's utilizing, especially the tight ends. I think you have a great tight end group and Ryder Cush and Peter Clark, and being able to utilize both of them. I think the offense like it flows effectively, and especially when Evan Simon was out there. The fact that, and I think Casey Keeler mentioned this, is that like the drop off and obviously like, I don't necessarily want to say like Javon and McCoy like really struggled or anything, but I think you just saw like Evan was a bit more in command of things, but I don't think that there's a significant drop off if something happens to Evan or like he, starts to struggle as well. So
yeah, there are a couple of things I would say on this one. After 1 week, did I see anything that would change my outlook for wins and losses for the season? My answer is yes, and I'll tell you why. Yes, the offense looked great. 6 touchdown passes were great. Jay Ducker, as we've said, was good as advertised. I think last year's team somebody might laugh at me for saying this in a 42-10 game. I think last year's team might have lost this game. I think they might have actually let things get out of control early when they did not tackle well. I don't know that last year's defense would have forced a turnover like that. I don't know that they would have stopped them on 4th and goal, that you had Lou Fry stop. I don't know that Benesweke has the confidence last season to, not that it was a devastating pass interference call. It's early in the game, but really made a nice play on that interception. So Casey Keeler has said it over and over again, and he has his catchphrases already, and he likes to repeat himself on certain things, but with good reason. He said multiple times now, look, I think that, and of course I'm paraphrasing him here, I think we have a chance to be a pretty good team. There are going to be more than a few games that just come down to like what happens on the fringes. Do we play clean football? Do we limit our mistakes? Do we handle adversity? Saturday was a microcosm of that. Again, the first drive, UMass just drove the ball right down their throats. And if you're a long-suffering Temple football fan, you say, okay, more of the same. Defense responded, played better. We've said multiple times now, we get that it was UMass, but they caused a couple of turnovers and, kept things from getting out of control with that interception. So it's 1 week, but I think that they did handle a little bit of adversity. And so, I mean, if you looked at the schedule after 1 week, I think we've all said, okay, they're going to be 2-2 most likely, barring a major upset of Georgia Tech or Oklahoma. So if you're 2-2 coming out of the break and Lone Star 2000, if we were going to say, I think I'd said, okay, I think they're a 5-7 team. Here's how I would push them to 6-6. So UTSA lost to Texas A&M. I'm looking at the six or the remaining conference games. UTSA lost to Texas A&M this weekend. Navy looked really sharp, 52-7 win over VMI. Charlotte lost 34-11 to App State. So could Temple beat UTSA? Sure, why not? Is Navy going to be tough? Yeah, I think Navy's going to be tough. Charlotte, I think that's a winnable game. Tulsa, 35-7 win over Abilene Christian. Tulsa was coming off a 3-9 season. ECU lost 24-7 to NC State. They played them tough. They've still got a good quarterback there in Hauser. Army, I think, is the team. Now, granted, it's 1 week, but I think when you look at what they lost at quarterback and when you look at what they lost at running back, Army got upset 30-27 to Tarleton State, the alma mater of new Eagles undrafted rookie phenom Darius Cooper. So Army's very much human this year. Now, again, it's week 1. They could get back into what they do well, which is what they always do, run the ball well. And then Tulane beat Northwestern 23-3. I think your toughest remaining games, if you're 2-2 coming out of non-conference play, Tulane's tough, Navy's tough, then after 1 week, find me a game on that schedule where you're just looking at it and saying like, oh, they can't win this game. They absolutely can't win this game. And I know it sounds like the boring answer, but again, I keep going back to what Casey Keeler says, and he's right. If so much of what they are doing or trying to change is the stuff that Al Golden changed back in, when he took over, like handling sudden change, handling adversity, not doing some of the same typical Temple stuff. And this is just a different version of it in 2025. So yeah, I could see him. After what I saw on Saturday, you could talk me into saying, hey, they're a 6-6 team instead of 5-7. So we'll see. Berkshire Al, the screen name on the next question here. Which player was the biggest surprise to you all? Jay, who was the biggest surprise to you? You've been on the Evan Simon train. You predicted weeks before we did that he would start when we were still thinking that maybe it was Giovanni. But I mean, 6 touchdown passes is 6 touchdown passes, but maybe someone aside from Evan, who surprised you on Saturday?
For me, I'll give one on both sides of the ball. I think defensively, Khalil Petit, I remember I had first talked with him when he had first committed to Temple. And to see like his journey and him overcoming the injuries is great to see. And really make an impact on the defensive line. And on the offensive side of the ball, I'd say Peter Clark, just because I think a lot of the attention went to you're bringing in this great tight end in Ryder Cush. It's like, all right, like he's going to be the focal point of this. And we had talked, like they still said like, oh, Peter Clark is here. Like he's still an impactful part of this offense, but to see him being utilized, I think especially like, and you can say that for a lot of players in this on both sides of the ball, where you could look at them and say they're utilized a lot better than they were last season. And I think Peter Clark just happens to be one of those people where it's like, he's being used a lot better and he's kind of lived up to it.
For me, I don't know that I'm super surprised. Again, it's, I know we've said it a million times already. It's 1 week, but for Giakoby Hills to play as clean a game as he played in his first college football game, that's a tribute to him, tribute to Al Johnson, kind of a tribute to Chris Wiesahan, who recruited him. So Chris Wiesahan's at Eastern Michigan now, but Chris Wiesahan, with the exception of Jackson Pruitt, recruited all these guys. And Giakoby Hills played a pretty clean game, as we said. Maybe I'll go with Ben Asueke. I know he's a starter. I just don't know that Ben times that route out as well as he did and, gets leverage on a receiver that's 6'5", 215 pounds. And just that pick was huge. Really, really important play there. So I don't know that Ben Asueke, who, a JUCO recruit, had some ability. He's had his ups and downs as a corner at Temple, had his ups and downs on Saturday. The way he responded, that was, I don't want to say super surprising, but I don't know if Ben Asueke does that last year. So he would be my answer on defense. Next question, another longtime subscriber. The screen name is TU1834. Obviously, they just did something that Temple team hasn't done on the field since 2021, which was win a road game. Again, if you've read our coverage, you might have seen, again, first road win in an opener since 2014 against Vanderbilt. That was that lightning delayed game. I remember covering that game and finishing my game story at like 3 or 4 in the morning and almost falling asleep at my laptop. So long story short, it's been a long time since they've won an opener on the road and won on the road since 2021 overall. Off the field, TU 1834 asks us, are the vibes around the program actually better, or did they just feel better? I almost asked this last week, but wanted to see the first result. Jay, what would be your response to that? Do you feel like the vibes around the program are actually better, or do they just feel better?
I genuinely think they are better. And I think this is something you could sense even before the UMass game. And I think especially the way Casey Keeler came in and handled the single digit situation. And it's just like, all right, like there's not to say there was a bit of controversy, but a bit of he's talked about it many times, like the popularity contest and how you're working through that process and you're being a bit more involved in what that looks like and what a single digit is versus the leadership council. I think the way that was handled alone, like, has stated, like, all right, like we're coming in, we're trying to change the culture, we're trying to change the vibe, we're trying to, do all these things where we aren't having another 3-9 season for the 4th year in a row. So I definitely think, like, and even following that after, like, you see Casey Keeler dancing in the locker room and all these type of things. Like it's maybe it's like it's just a high of a good week 1, but I do genuinely think like the vibes are a lot better.
Yeah, I think they unquestionably are. And TU 1834, I get the gist of your question. I know what you're getting at. I think they are actually better. I think they went from, and you've subscribed to the site for quite a while. The vibes were at a train wreck level in year 3 of Rod Carey. Year 1, Rod Carey, he pressed a lot of the right buttons. They go 8-4, then they get routed by North Carolina in the bowl game. But if you're going to criticize Rod Carey for losing that bowl game, you got to criticize past Temple coaches, including Matt Rule, for losing in bowl games. Year 2, we'll give him a pass, 2020, COVID. Year 3 was bad. I think we've said on this podcast before, I don't know, I can count on one hand the number of times I've heard like that many leaks of just like players just half volunteering stuff or just hearing them talk about just how bad it was. It was time for a change. Rod Carey was clearly, at least at Temple, overmatched, did not get the place, and the vibes were awful. Stan Drayton comes in. I think that Stan genuinely cared about his players, genuinely cared about embracing Temple, but the staff just wasn't right. That was a staff that was heavily influenced by Everett Withers. 3-9 seasons, time to make a change. Yeah, I think they're absolutely better. Kyle and I were talking about this earlier today before we were recording. I agree with him. He said, have you ever noticed that the social media engagement and interaction is different for Temple football? If Temple football wins, yeah, every time I was checking on the way home, and I promise I was looking at the road when I was driving, but like you'd look down and like a bunch of engagement on social media. I think sometimes, Temple might have a big win in basketball against Memphis, or, they beat Houston or they almost go to the tournament. But I think the fan base is always like, well, it's not the 80s. It's not John Chaney. It's not this, it's not that. People get excited. And it's just, again, 42-10 win. We want to keep providing context. They beat a UMass program that is among the worst in the country, is also rebuilding. But you start hearing from other people and just randomly, and I stay in touch with a lot of coaches some of whom have never coached at Temple, some who used to coach at Temple. But I heard from a couple of people in the coaching industry. Again, these are not Temple people. And, one person had said to me, I'm watching their game now, and the operation just looks clean. This is one game, but Tyler Walker looks sharp. Another person I talked to over the last couple of weeks thinks that Temple really got it right with Casey Keeler. And he said the guy has always figured it out wherever he's gone. He's always figured it out. So again, they are going to face some losses. They're going to face some adversity, but on the whole, yes, I think the vibes are absolutely better around the program. Glenn Al72 on Twitter, not questions, but more like observations. How much of a difference it is to have a proven coach making decisions and such as clock management versus a first-time coach, and the diversity in the offense was amazing to see. Yeah, would agree with you there, and I think that you'll see more from Tyler Walker. I think any coordinator, if they can get away with not really opening up their playbook against a non-conference opponent that you're supposed to beat, I think there's going to be more from this offense that you'll see. Would agree with you, Glenn. Ed Helinsky on Twitter. Ed, I think this is your first question in the mailbag for the Scoop, so welcome. Appreciate you listening. What are you liking and disliking about this Temple football team after week 1? Jay, what do you like and dislike about this team?
There isn't a definitive like dislike that I would say. I think especially the one thing I will like, and yes, like we talked about it many times. I think it's just the way that they responded the second half, and I think so many times before, at least in my previous 3 years of covering Temple football, I think there's so many times where I see them going to halftime. You're like, all right, like they're gonna make halftime adjustments, and then nothing changes the second half. And I think this game, like you could see that, like, all right, like tackles look cleaner, everything is flowing more concisely, and I think just the way they adapted and yes, like using the term overcoming adversity, it was great to see them kind of get over like whatever was going, whatever was going wrong in the second half, they improved it in the second half and actually took it a step further. So that would be like my like, but I really don't have a dislike.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more on like the like. It was the way that they responded to early mistakes. Simple as that. That affected the outcome, and I think it affected the outcome to that much of a degree where they were able to go route them because they tightened some stuff up. The defense came up with big plays. The offense was about as crisp as it could have been. What I would dislike at this point, and it's a little counterintuitive to what we just talked about, if they open the game, they're going to beat Howard, barring any major surprises. If you tackle like that on defense against Georgia Tech and Oklahoma, a long day is going to get longer. And if it persists into the season, that's something they have to get tightened up. We've talked about the tackling. We've talked about the secondary being maybe not as deep. I don't know. Maybe a guy like Earl Culp or maybe a guy like Jet White or some of these other less proven guys step up and they're just fine. But the tackling, if it were to persist, would be the thing that I don't like about this team. But we'll have to see if the poor tackling at the start of the game was just, like we said earlier, the fact that they're not bringing people to the ground as much in camp, or if it is something that's indicative of a bigger problem. The last question here from the Hick, screen name from our message board. Is all the hoops money now being channeled into football? No, it's not. Basketball does have a revenue share line item in its budget, I'm pretty sure. So I don't know if that's the Hick just having some fun with football there. So no, it is not. That's going to do it for the mailbag. Jay, love you, buddy. Thank you for everything you've done for Al Scoop, for the Scoop. Obviously, I'm literally going to see you the rest of this week. And Jay, where can people follow your work from? You're still going to be interning at the Inquirer. Where can people find you, even if this is your last episode of the Scoop? Where can people find your work from here on out?
Yeah. So I won't traditionally be doing like a writing role at the Inquirer as like previous people have done, like Declan, Johnny, Ramir, Javon, Caden. But I'll be doing more like a social media type of stuff. So I'll be taking over the like social media, at least as Philadelphia Inquirer sports accounts on Fridays and Saturday nights. And usually down to any college football stuff, college relations, that'll probably be me. So if you could please follow me on Twitter at Jason Nieves1. Very simple, just my name, Jason Nieves, and then 1. And yeah, follow along my whatever I'm posting on there. And of course, WHIP Radio. We're having a great year, or getting off to a good start this year. So yeah.
Awesome. Good stuff, Jay. Thank you all for listening. We'll have more for you next week. We'll talk about the recap of the Temple Howard game, any recruiting news that comes up. Always happy to answer your mailbag questions, so keep them coming. We'll talk to you soon.